So welcome everyone to the weekend retreat, 3-day retreat, however you would like to call it. And because since COVID anyway, this is the first time we sort of get back into the habit of having like stay over practice at the temple. Then we're a little bit rusty on some of the ways we organize these things. And for some of us, we are new to this sort of experience as well. Some of my colleagues have done some retreats recently, and generally the way they do that, it's just a mixture of talks and meditations. So maybe more in a single day than you would normally have by coming on a Wednesday evening, for example. So of course that's good because you get more meditation hours in. But the thing about staying over at the temple where the sessions are somehow connected up on a 3-day retreat like we have this time around is that in between the sessions we get to work on ourselves as well. And as you have heard from B or from Ying, then part of that is to do with this sort of personal cultivation of integrity, known as the 8 precepts, which is one way of sort of boosting the energy which you have to bring to your meditation. So for most of the do's and don'ts, or the nitty-gritty of the staying over, for those of you who are staying over, I think you have heard that now from the mentors, but from my part, hopefully we are going to be concentrating on 2 parts of maybe 3 things, which is firstly what these precepts mean and actually taking the precepts, also meditation for those of you who are new to it, and then lastly some little thoughts about maybe a positive attitude to take with you into the whole weekend as a way to maximize the benefits which you will get out of it. So I'll start with the idea of precepts first of all. So if I can show a slide a little bit, hopefully that will come up too. Is it there? So yes, sometimes the equipment doesn't talk to each other. Count to 10. Let's see if we get any better.ยังไม่ปรากฏใช่ไหมฮะมาแล้วใช่ไหมฮะยังไม่มา In the old days, they used to have these things called wires, which were really useful because like when you plug it in, you're pretty sure that it's going to be talking to each other, but it was? Yeah. You got a glimpse of blue? Yes. Oh, that's hold out hope, yes. So we have this thing called Wi-Fi now, which is of course much better. So let's see what we can do with that. So generally, if you are one of the regulars on the Wednesday night, then you will have heard a lot about meditation and like the benefits of meditation. And it's like we jump straight in and we do a meditation practice and we get our benefits from that. But in the sequence of trainings from the Buddhist tradition, actually meditation is quite a long way down the line of possible ways to work on yourself. And there's an idea that you need to set a firm foundation for yourself first of all before you start meditation, in order that the meditation will give you the maximum of benefit. And the foundations for the meditation practice is known as, you might call it integrity, or keeping precepts on a certain level. And as I couldn't find a picture of it, but if you think about, let's say, a pool table, when you start a pool game, you've got this little triangle frame, which you use to rack the balls together before you start a game. A triangular one, right? And if you have that little frame around the balls, you can actually add a second layer or a third layer on top of the balls. Yeah? Why? Because the little thing around the edge is holding them all in place, so they don't skid away all over the table, right? And with meditation practice, it's rather similar to that. If you don't have this integrity aspect to your personal contact, or at least the intention to like do good for yourself and for the world, then any meditation you practice may not really, the benefits will not stay with you. It'd be like the billiard balls or the pool balls that just scatter around the table. Yeah. So on the basis of integrity, and here we're going to be talking about the 8 precepts today rather than 5 precepts, which would normally be upheld in daily life. On the basis of that would come meditation practice, which we would be doing over the 3 days. Yeah. And meditation practice helps to bring a sense of calm to the mind and internalize the mind, bring the mind back from all those busy things which normally distract us in our everyday lives, so that we have a sense of presence and conscience and the ability to see what's going on in the world clearly and without any bias or prejudice. And if we have enough of that, we create a platform for ourselves within our mind upon which something called wisdom can develop, where not only are you seeing things as they are, but you're able to understand them somehow on a deeper level. And wisdom might say, well, I get that because I go to school every day, so I got lots of wisdom. I've got like diplomas to prove it. But wisdom is something that goes deeper than regular knowledge or conventional knowledge, in that it helps you to really get to the roots of things, to get to a root understanding of maybe the origins of things which are a problem in your life. An equivalent, a metaphor for that would be, if you had wisdom rather than knowledge, instead of just mopping up the floor every time your pipe leaks, you'd be going to look to see where the water is leaking from. Yeah. So anything else in your life, it would be the same sort of thing. So wisdom helps you to get to the roots of problems and solve them once and for all. Yeah. So we're talking about a slightly higher level of precepts than normally would be expected in everyday life. And the idea of precepts, they're not called commandments because they are not sort of ideas. The idea of them is not rules which are sort of going to entail some sort of punishment. If you do bad, like you've had it and you are condemned for all eternity to be thrown into the nether realms or whatever. It's not like that, but sometimes the translation used for the word precept is the rule of training. So it's a standard which you try to train yourself towards. And by doing that, you are able to internalize these standards of living, is ethical living, more and more closely to the ideal which you're looking for. So if at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah. And let's say you normally are not very careful about things you say, you like blurt it all out without really having thought about it. This is the opportunity to think, in number 4, and did some incorrect speech just now. Let's see if I can do better next time around. And little by little, if you train yourself towards that ideal, one day you'll manage it and you'll be able to, that becomes a part of who you are. But that will save the energy which would normally be wasted, especially the energy which you built up in your meditation so carefully. It's a shame to waste that on, the energy is sort of frittering away on things which are, going to create conflict with other people, for example. So There's a set of precepts known as the 5 precepts, which are seen as a sort of basic minimum, just to basically make sure you don't take advantage of other people, especially the weaknesses in other people or the weaknesses in yourself. But today we're talking about 8 precepts, and the objective of the 8 precepts goes a little bit further than just like getting along with people in society and not taking advantage of them, which is to simplify things in your mind in a way that when you meditate, it's going to make clear your mind in a way that allows you to progress more easily. Some of them are pretty much the same as the 5 precepts, so you appreciate like being thrown into the same dormitory with a bunch of strangers that you would like to be able to trust them, right? So this is a little bit of reassurance that the people you're with at least are coming from a good place. Okay, so the 5 precepts are still in there, but they are sort of, we turn up the volume a little bit on this in order to not only be a good upstanding person, but also put ourselves in a place where meditation practice will really give us the full benefit. So the first 4 I won't go into much detail about, apart from the third one, which instead of emphasizing like family harmony, which would be like marital fidelity sort of thing, would be upgraded towards if a husband and wife were to come on a meditation retreat together, they would sleep in separate accommodation according to this rule. Yeah, without putting too fine a point on it. So skip it to the extra ones. Down to number 6. There's not an evening meal served. So you say, oh, this is why they can do it so cheaply, because like they don't give us any food in the evening. The idea of this is, in the modern day, it would be called by a different name, and they would call it intermittent fasting. Yeah. They even called it the Buddha diet. It's like, been doing it for thousands of years already. It's just like they've just given it a fancy name now, where you get to not have any intake of calories between, well, not calories, but at least solid food between the hours of, let's say, 12 and dawn of the next morning. So how do you know when dawn has come up? You check your app. In the olden days, they used to hold their hand out at full extension of your arm. If by natural daylight you can see the lines on your hand, then you can say, for all intents and purposes, it is dawn. So that is a basic way of doing it. Another way traditionally they do it is, if you look at trees in the distance, you can tell the difference between the light and dark green leaves on the tree. That is said to be dawn already. Here, I think they've just done daylight saving, so it's not actually very bright when breakfast comes around, but I think it's sort of more or less light enough. But the idea is not to put on the lights to see if you can see the lines on your hands. Yes, but that is when it would be okay to break your fast. Yeah. So breakfast we take very literally. In the evening, there are some things which are given a not counted technically as food, which is nice, right? Because Buddhists have compassion. So some things they don't count as food, which luckily we are allowed to consume just to keep our strength up in the evening. So as B mentioned, there's dairy products in there. Some temples are very strict. They don't even allow dairy products. But for some reason, cheese was very hard to find in India in the old days. So it wasn't much of an exception. But these days, like it's full on like dairy, everything. So most of those things are okay. Fruit juice is also okay. If you want to be very strict, it should be the fruits of small fruit. The juice of small fruit. So not larger than your fist. So not watermelon, but like oranges, okay. Apples, okay. Yeah. And it's not really called food, but they're considered to be medicines in the evening. Things like tamarinds. For your digestion, sometimes they can help to fill a gap. We don't want to eat so much that we get sleepy. but we also don't want to eat so little that we have a rumbly stomach that disturbs everyone else who's meditating. So somewhere in between there is a happy medium. But the idea is not to have like platefuls of ice cream to make up for your lost evening meal, but rather to keep your strength up. But a lot of people who've been on retreats have said that they feel that they have a particularly good meditation in the evening because they have a light stomach, and again early in the morning because they haven't yet had anything to eat. So you get at least 2 sessions which are often better than normal because of your change in the eating schedule. Number 7 is to do with distractions towards the mind. So we don't have all singing, dancing activities on our meditation retreats. We try to emphasize the things that will allow our mind to come back to ourselves. Sometimes you hear music, especially instrumental music, around the temple. Generally, it is supposed to be uplifting rather than romantic music. But you can imagine like how you're trying to switch from your eyesight especially, or your external senses towards the inner sense of the mind, the sixth sense of the center of your body, then it makes it easier if you don't have all those things to constantly be grabbing your attention. So that's the reason for that. So dancing, singing, music. Some people like to sing in the shower. This will be a chance to train yourself in mindfulness to not do that. Yes. As for the second half of the 7th precept, wearing garlands. Anyone sneaked any garlands in here? Yeah, Hawaiian people maybe, I don't know. Wearing perfume or beautifying your body, wearing jewelry, that sort of thing. Sometimes people try to keep it to a bare minimum. Sometimes we go for just plain white clothing, or just plain clothing, nothing sort of too gaudy or distracting for the other people. Why? Because we are also a human environment to each other. So you can imagine the person who's like sloshed perfume all over themselves, even without opening your eyes, you know they just came into the room. You can tell where they are by the smell of the perfume. Obviously, that would be very distracting for the other people. So we try to keep it to a fairly sort of just blending into the background as much as possible and being a good environment to each other. Last one is the sleeping arrangements. And in some places you can imagine in Asia, it's pretty hot. So they basically just roll out a straw mat on the hard floor. And that's very welcome because it keeps you cool. In slightly cooler climates like this one, then we need to have some insulation. And some people, they argue about what is a high or a luxurious bed? Does it need to be like 4-poster, double bed, king size, and like where you have to sort of climb up onto it? Is that a high bed? In some places they say any higher than that is high, or high enough to put things under your bed is already high. Really what they're trying to get at is indulgence in your sleeping habits. So it's not really about the size of the bed, it's more about how reluctant you are to get up in the morning. So the idea is to sleep to regain your energy to do your meditation practice, and not to sort of lie in and wake up late or miss the morning chanting and that sort of thing. Yeah. So here, for those who are staying over, the actual mattresses are not particularly thick, but they are on the floor. Yeah. But if you need some other things to get to sleep comfortably, then just let us know. So that is the 8 precepts, and normally at this point what we do formally is repeat the precepts in the Pali language after the monk. So we're going to ask for our mentor to lead that, and then we follow along with the chanting, which you can see on the screen, but you probably have it in your chanting book there somewhere as well, but it depends on which version you have, which page it is. I'll make it as large as you want.
Mayang Pante, ติสรเนนะสหอัตตศิลานิยาจามะทุติยัมปิมายังพันเตติสรเนนะสหอัตตศิลานิยาจามะตติยังปิมายังพันเตติสรเนนะสหอัตตศิลานิยาจามะ
So if you like to repeat after me. นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะ
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะ
พุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
พุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
สังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
สังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีพุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีพุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีสังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ทุติยัมปีสังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปีพุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปีพุทธังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปิธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปิธัมมังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปิสังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ตติยัมปิสังฆังสารนังกัจฉามิ
ติสารณะกัมนังนิธิทัง
อามาพันเต
ปานาติปาตาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
ปานาติปาตาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อาทินนาทานาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อาทินาทานาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อะบรมจาริยาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อะปรมชาริยาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
มุสาวาทาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
มุสาวาทาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
สุราเมรยมัจจพมาดาฐานาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
สุราเมรยมัจจปปานาทานาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
วิคาลโภชนาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
วิคาลโภชนาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
นัจจากิตาวาทิตาวิสุขดัสสนะมาลากันดาวิเลพนะดารณะมันตนาวิปูสนฐานาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
นัจจากิตาเวติตาวิสุทธัสสนะมาลนะเวดนะนิพุตนะเตปัจจานาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อุจจาสยนามหาสยนาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อุจจาสยนามหาสยนาเรระมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ
อิมานิอัตถสิกขาปทานิสีเลนะสุขติงยันติสีเลนะโภคสัมปทาสีเลนะนิพุติงยันติทัสมาสีลังวิโสทะเย So retreats, some of us have tried doing retreats in different styles in different places, but generally we know that it's coming away from the busy context of our everyday lives to give ourselves a little bit of downtime in a way that we can come back to the world refreshed somehow. I recently heard it talked about as it's like in our lives we are a stone that has been left out in the full sunlight, which gets so heated up by the sun that is as hot as the tarmac, basically. But if we take the stone into the shade, then little by little it will start to cool down. And if you were to throw some water over the stone, sometimes you'd even get steam coming off it, helping it to cool down a little bit more. And this is, again, a metaphor for what it's like coming on retreat. Sometimes we're not really doing anything special, apart from a little bit more meditation than usual, but simply coming away from all the things that normally stir up the mind. Already we get some advantage. And as for that steam coming off the mind, well, sometimes we have like the various sorts of junk in the mind becomes more obvious to us. That's the steam coming off the mind. But little by little, we are cooling down, putting ourselves in a better place. Sometimes it's said that meditation retreats are about doing 3 less and 1 more. You heard that before? So what do you think 3 less is? Less talking, less eating, less sleeping, and more meditation. But these days they say basically you should just do what feels put you at ease. Yeah, so nothing too artificial, nothing too strenuous or Spartan, but really putting yourself in a good place. Yeah, we're not really here for hardship, but we do have like some boundaries there simply to allow us to build that higher pyramid, as I said before. I used to practice in some other different meditation techniques before I came to this Dhammakaya method, and it's all good experience, water under the bridge, you might say. But the first retreat I ever went on was one organized by a breathing meditation method, and it was a 7-day retreat. We went off to a special place, and the way they organized that retreat was that the first 3 days were spent in silence, which was sort of interesting in itself. I'm not going to say beneficial, but it suddenly makes you realize how much time you spend thinking. The moment you stop talking to other people, you realize how much conversation is just going on in your head. And eventually that sort of wears off as well. But it's a little bit artificial again, as I say, trying to mime to people, pass the salt and that sort of thing. It's not really the style which we tend to use in the center. In that retreat, it was everyone went off and did a meditation in their own room, and they only met up once a day, or met up for meals and met up for 1 meditation a day. And the idea was that you would sit through all the pain in your meditation on your own, and then somehow you come out better for it. And there is something to be said for that. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. Once you stop, it feels really good. Once you stop punishing your knees and going through all that pain, yeah, it feels like you're in heaven, really. Yeah, but that's probably not really what we're after here. Okay. Another one I heard about is you go on a retreat with a friend, and the friend doesn't go on the retreat, they bring your meals. And basically it's like being in solitary confinement, and they sort of shove your food tray under the door, hopefully 2 or 3 times a day. So solitary retreat, nothing much of a social aspect on that one. Another one I heard about is you get to ask 1 question a day from your teacher. So you have to think of like a question that doesn't make you look too stupid when you eventually turn up for your interview with the teacher, like you get to ask 1 question. Yeah. This is like not here, okay? But this is what they do in these different places. Yeah. So there are different approaches to meditation retreats. Some of them more or less communal. But what I'd like to say is that generally meditation takes us out of our comfort zone, because if we are in our own homes, then everything is sort of tailored to be comfortable for us. And really, we tend not to discover very much about ourselves if we just do things according to our usual routine, and we never push ourselves to our limits at all. However, once we come into a more social context, a new place, a new set of precepts perhaps, a different lifestyle, getting up a little bit earlier, having to wait in a line for our meals and this sort of thing, it does throw us out of that comfort zone. And it's at these points that we really start to learn something about ourselves. So you might say, oh, well, any sort of hardship can do that. Why choose to have hardship in our local temple? Yeah, it's a sort of gentle sort of waking up to who we are. You might feel impatient about things which normally you would never notice before. And this is a reflection on yourself. This is where you start to see deeper between the surface of who you really are, getting to know yourself. Often we find we know a lot more about the people around us and things around us, but we forget to look at ourselves. So it's like turning a mirror on ourselves, you might say. So the sort of objectives which we try to work towards by coming together for a retreat include certainly familiarizing ourselves with different ways into the Dhammakaya meditation tradition. So tonight we had one way, counting our way down through the bases to get to the center of the body. There are different ways: loving kindness, going straight to the center of the body, working with the mantra, working with visualization, working with observation. I try to include different ways of meditating so that you can find something that suits you. Second thing, learn more about yourself, get that chance to have some me time. And it's a good place to do that. Even in 3 days, you can probably learn quite a lot about you. Certainly your appetite, yes. Third thing is this aspect of mindfulness, where meditation is more than just about what you do on your meditation mat, but it's also what you do between the sessions. And in the ancient scriptures, they talked about having mindfulness in 4 different postures. And not meditation postures, not yoga postures, but basically sitting. So on our meditation mat, sitting, standing, walking, and lying down. So if we can maintain our mind at the center of the body, whatever we're doing, then that cultivates this quality known as mindfulness, which is keeping ourselves centered even outside the meditation practice. And we bring then the wisdom and the clarity of our meditation into all the aspects of our daily life, whether we're eating, whether we are talking to other people, whether we are helping with the chores, whether we're exercising. When I think we have an opportunity for some walking meditation too. So these are all ways where you can familiarize yourself with what it's like to keep your mind centered even when your eyes are partly open. Yeah, and this is something which normally in everyday life would be quite hard to find the opportunity for. But if you can do it in the sort of idealized situation which we have in the temple, then you can bring some of that back into your everyday lives as well. The other thing I should say, which is not on the list, is that although we play different ways according to the groups we are giving meditation retreats for, here I heard that Georgia, the graduates from the Wednesday night class end up on the Sunday morning. So all of you are pretty familiar with what goes on behind the scenes in the temple anyway, so you wouldn't be frightened away by things like chanting and like precepts and helping out with chores in the temple. So they have gone like full Monty on all these things so that you get some first-hand experience of what goes on behind the scenes in the temple. So you call it Buddhist culture if you like, you call it temple culture if you like, but hopefully what you'll learn from some of these things going on is maybe some aspects that you find boost your meditation experience or your readiness to meditate. Some aspects where you can see how they fit in with that positivity of mind, which will maybe be uplifting in ways which are more than just sitting on your meditation mat. I know a lot of people who love chanting, for example. Especially the more musically minded people, making a noise, they find it somehow more liberating than just sort of sitting in silence. So there's that aspect of things. Some people are interested in the scriptural side of things. It's a chance to sort of get up close with some of those ancient languages, the long vowel sounds and this sort of thing, which is quite interesting for those who are linguistically inclined. So there's a lot to learn, and I would put temple culture on the list there as something else which you can familiarize yourself with, because like you're staying over, you see everything which goes on in the temple, not just the sort of public image or public face of the temple activities. Yeah. As I said, we tend to go for a more community approach to retreats instead of being in solitary or each one person splitting up to meditate on their own. We feel that we learn not just from the meditation teacher, not just from the mentors, but we also learn from each other. And there's a sense that a smart person would learn from their own mistakes. But if you can learn also from other people's mistakes, then you are even smarter, right? And we can do that if we learn as a group. So there's certain things which being on retreat allows us to do. For example, on the Saturday afternoon, we have what's known as a group sharing of meditation experiences where we try to evaluate our own meditation, and that's a group activity. So we get to hear about how other people's meditation is going on. And somehow that helps to put it in perspective for us as well, like where we are on the path, who are likely to be the people who we can ask about certain aspects of our meditation, who can help us along the way, what we can learn from each other. So between teacher and student, there is certain exchange. I would encourage, if you have questions, to ask. And although I have in mind what you might find interesting, but I may be wrong. And if you ask questions, then it helps me to fine tune to spend more time on the things which you really are genuinely interested in. So learning from each other, there's the inspiration of meditating together as a group. It helps you to overcome any laziness which you might have to meditate, because like the person in front of you is still sitting there. So, okay, so I'll give it another 10 minutes sort of thing. So there is an inspiration to meditating as a group, a sense of solidarity or group spirit as well. Being open and learning from our others' experiences. Sometimes if we think we know it all, then we don't learn a great deal. But if we're open to admitting where we don't know things, then that's the chance to fulfill those gaps in our knowledge as well. And I told you about the sort of secret sort of meditation where no one knows where you're at in your meditation apart from you and maybe your teacher, but we are more open about that. I'm not saying that talking to each other about meditation experiences is sort of like bragging, like, oh, my crystal ball is bigger than your one, or something like that, or, oh, I got past that stage ages ago. No, it's not that sort of sharing, but it's more like, how can we learn from one another? What tips can we share with one another that is going to be useful to us? Or sometimes, you brought the meditation into your own culture in a way that maybe you can share with other people better than the monk can, who has, maybe is not familiar with those aspects of life which you're coming from. Yeah. So because we tend to be a large organization, we don't tend to go for personal tuition as much, but we tend to tutor people as a whole group. It just sort of comes with the numbers of people who join the meditation and who want to learn meditation. So we tend to be more open in our tradition. And the idea is that we share because we want to learn from each other. It's not to share to sort of show off, but it's so that we can all get better and the whole group can become better as a team. So this is the idea of not keeping meditation sort of hidden as some sort of mystery, but rather to be open about it. Yeah. And it helps us to understand not only what we have achieved in our meditation, but also how we got to it as well. So this is the benefits of being slightly more open. The teacher hasn't got a sort of, it's not holding back knowledge, but really I would like to be able to communicate all the knowledge I have to you, so that one day when I'm too decrepit to be able to teach anymore, then you lot can just sort of step up to the plate, and do even better job than before. So everything I have, I would like to share with you, and I hope you would have the same sort of attitude towards your own practice as well, because that's how meditation gets passed along to the next generation. It's a living tradition, and it lives through us as practitioners. So giving the time which you have over the weekend to meditate in this way, it's like giving life to the tradition as well, and giving life to the future of the meditation for generations to come as well. So all of these things are particularly make the retreat experience something which is particularly valuable and precious. Here it says meditation skills are emphasized rather than religion. I think that is probably true, but we have sort of thrown in some aspects of Buddhist culture too. They are there as options. Please don't feel at any point that you're being forced to do any of these things, but they are there for you to try out, in a way that doesn't have any strings attached. Yeah. So I think that's probably everything I would like to say, apart from wishing you well in your meditation, trying to keep your mind centered, whatever you're doing throughout the time, and your little stone will gradually cool down and become placid and calm inside in a way that you have something really positive. You put yourself in a stronger place than before as you return to your everyday lives on the Sunday afternoon. Yeah. So I won't keep you up too late because you have an early start, right?